What's up everyone? Alex here. It's virtually impossible to know everything there is to know about our world, and anything we don't know is often feared and misunderstood. Take alchemy in Atelier Yumia for instance. It's a world where alchemy is reviled and outlawed, with stories passed down from generation to generation, merely echoing the idea that this dark art caused a powerful empire to fall ages ago. But when a recent discovery promises more insight as to what really happened, it falls on you, taking up the role of Yumia Liesfeld, to use your knowledge of alchemy to help navigate the perils of this ruined continent. And yet, despite only wishing to challenge society's perceptions of alchemy by assisting in this expedition, she is treated inhumanely, only seen as a tool to use for this mission. This sets the stage for a seemingly grim Atelier game, the likes of which has never been seen before, which makes one wonder, has Gust completely lost the plot and forgotten what the series is all about? Atelier Yumia, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land, is a fantasy-themed Japanese-style RPG featuring a hybrid battle system and detailed crafting mechanics, developed by Gust and published by Koei Tecmo, who provided me with a PS5 game code. And before you ask, if you've never played an Atelier game before, you can absolutely start with this one, as it is the start of a new trilogy. The Atelier series has long been seen as cozy and cute, with its increased emphasis on crafting mechanics being one of its most distinguishing features. So when the premise of Atelier Yumia was revealed early on, the seemingly darker tone caught some fans by surprise. For now, I'd like to invite you to cast aside this thought for the time being to bring focus to one big reason why you'll want to play Atelier Yumia: exploration. I mentioned in previous videos that I am absolutely not a completionist, and every time I play a game with an open world design, I often get overwhelmed. The previous two Ryza games played with the idea of opening up its world, and introduced Atelier fans to this style of gameplay. While they were good, they weren't great representations of how to leverage this type of design that complements the series' gameplay. By contrast, Atelier Yumia feels very much like Gust learned their lessons from these early experimentations by incorporating new mechanics that make exploration feel much more meaningful. Take magical energy, for instance, which is a mechanic inspired by the latest Legend of Zelda titles. This new meter governs how much you can do while away from your atelier, from quickly synthesizing items to hopping your way up rock faces and building ruins, and even taking fall damage. While magical energy limits just how often you can engage in these activities, it's still really cool that you're now able to synthesize some items while out on the field, as opposed to going back to the atelier to make them. And because you're now able to hop up surfaces and absorb fall damage via this magical energy, it makes exploration feel a bit more pleasant and expanded than in previous games. And in case some of you were wondering, this magical energy meter isn't some sort of stamina/survival mechanic that depletes over time, though it will deplete in areas with high mana concentration. Otherwise, you can run across the game's beautiful areas to your heart's content, even fast traveling all over the place with wanton abandon, and not have to worry about depleting the meter at all. And to just hammer the point home, there are even structures that you can trigger to replenish a portion of your magical energy, though once these are activated, they'll go on a cooldown. But all of this wouldn't matter if Atelier Yumia didn't have anything worthwhile for you to do on the field. Unfortunately, doing just about anything rewards you with something to improve or enhance your party. For instance, uncovering parts of the map increases your investigation rating, while rewarding you with skill points that you can spend on Yumia's skill tree. This tree is split between three self-explanatory categories: exploration, synthesis, and combat. There's also a checklist of activities that you can do to increase your pioneering effort, which rewards you with rare materials and recipes when you hit certain percentages and milestones. And as you might expect, completing side quests also rewards you with tons of cool stuff. And for those who were worried about Atelier Yumia's hybrid combat system, I can say with certainty that you've got absolutely nothing to worry about. While I can go into details as to how this combat system works, I believe that all you need to know is that some of these nuances might get lost because you gain levels so fast, making quick work of enemies sooner rather than later. And that's before I actually spent skill points buying the experience point increased skill in Yumia's combat tree, which I eventually had to get to unlock skills further down. I hit level 20 really quickly just by fighting enemies as I was exploring the world, which kinda shocked me with just how fast I kept leveling up. The brand new alchemy system in Atelier Yumia is also really fun to play around with, to the point that you can make some truly overpowered items very early on, also making the game easier. The way it works is quite simple. You'll be shown what is basically a solar system representation of the item that you're synthesizing, and on every planetary node, you'll have to select a material that goes into it. The catch is that little stars will be floating about, which you'll want to grab if you can. The only way to get them is to choose a material that has a big enough gravitational pull, designated by a big circle around it, to highlight said stars and, if possible, even nearby nodes and a sun in the middle. And once you fill every node with a material, you can go ahead and synthesize the item. As you can probably tell, this gravitational pull, called resonance in the game, is one of the biggest reasons why Yumia's alchemy system can be easily taken advantage of. It's a simple yet straightforward system that not only makes it far more approachable than its predecessor, but also complements all of its existing systems, quality, traits, and effects that longtime Atelier players are familiar with. But perhaps if there's a quibble or two that I have with Atelier Yumia's gameplay, is that whenever I try to go down ladders quickly, it always has Yumia climbing up a rung or two, then finally sliding down. Weird. Also, while base building is new to Atelier Yumia, it doesn't quite feel as fulfilling as I had hoped. Areas where you're allowed to build things are categorized as either camps or bases, with camps further limiting you with how much furniture and building elements you can put down. The effectiveness of each base's functionality is influenced by its comfort level, which is a rating you'll have to consider when selecting the type of furniture or building element to place, which also adds up to the area's item limit. These extra considerations force you to min-max what things to place at your base, which, when you consider that building elements and furniture use up a lot of materials, can really take you away from the fun of customizing your settlements. That said, the further you get into the game, the easier this gets, as you obtain better recipes, higher quality materials, and unlock more features. I think the reason why I felt this way about its base building mechanics is because early on, Atelier Yumia's world just spoiled me with such beautiful and gorgeous views that I truly wanted to make something that would feel like it truly belonged. There are so many vistas and beautiful landscapes to be found that I often just stopped and admired it all. Tall structures pierce through the landscape, allowing you to easily set a course towards them to try and explore its uncharted ruins. Mountains can be scaled just by cleverly, and perhaps awkwardly, hopping up to footholds placed in the environment. There is a hidden language and logic to the world that somehow becomes apparent the more you explore it, which helps you connect with everything around you. What's profound about Atelier Yumia is that the more you explore its ruined continent, the more you feel as though she's slowly getting her freedom of expression back. This stands in stark contrast to the beginning of the game, when some people just outright choose to treat her poorly, going so far as to tell her to only act when she's commanded to. Yet despite these painful interactions, Yumia's kindness and desire to help her fellows pushes her onward, and slowly earns the trust of people around her, giving you a real sense of fulfillment and satisfaction each time this happens. There is a genuine joy to be had when uncovering vast sections of the continent, which is mirrored by the improving attitudes towards Yumia. This all works together to quickly turn around its oppressive initial hours. But perhaps what's more interesting about Atelier Yumia's story is the presence of a stable of villains. Most Atelier games can be summed up as stories of adolescence and growth for its many protagonists. But your journey with Yumia begins with adversity, which necessitates a party of villains that serve to challenge her and her party's strength and ideals, acting as a fitting contrast of sorts to your team. It's in this sense that, despite these grim additions, that Atelier Yumia still very much represents the prevailing theme of growth in the series. But Yumia's story demands a different kind of growth, one that asks you to be open to the possibilities that things you know nothing of aren't inherently bad. This is perfectly mirrored by its desire for you to explore its uncharted world, as it tasks you with venturing into treacherous unknown areas, hoping that you'll persevere to see the beauty that lies beyond its miasma. To say that Atelier Yumia is a surprising maturation of the many things we loved about the series is merely understating the fact that there's a lot of thought given to every facet of its design. And to think that this is merely the first in what we expect to be a trilogy of games makes me excited for even more possibilities for the future of this series.